Good morning. Welcome to SUNUP. Land ownership is a fundamental part of the American dream. But what do you do when your land is threatened by a seemingly unstoppable foe? Earlier this summer, our Clinton Griffiths went to Durant to visit a pair of landowners who are facing exactly that problem.
Summertime in Oklahoma has its own music. It's that peaceful melody that brought Anna Cahill Marcy and her husband to this rural property just outside of Durant in southeastern Oklahoma.
We bought this property about a year ago. It's 8 acres, and we're working on it slowly, clearing it out, trying to make it really pretty.
It's the place, the spot where they'll build a house, build a life, and one day retire. Little did they realize what a labor of love their dream spot would become.
We bought the property, and it was winter time, and we could see vines. We could see the dormant vines. I thought that it was an overgrowth of maybe a grapevine or something. Had no idea. When spring started to come around and warm up, it turned very green, a very green carpet. Couldn't figure out what it was. I'd never seen anything like this.
That's because what she found isn't native to Oklahoma. In fact, it's not native to North America. These twisting vines are known as Kudzu, an extremely aggressive invasive species that's trying to strangle their dreams.
It's choking out our trees that we love so much. It's invading the creek, tearing down the fence lines, very snaky.
And it grows fast. They set this stake at the edge of the growth on a Tuesday. By Friday, vines were 2 feet past. That has Anna worried about the pond.
What we've discovered, though, is that by mowing the pond down and cutting off the pieces of vine when we brush hog, wherever the mower slings it,
right,
it will start growing again. And so you see these little bitty sprouts all over the top of the pond dam. You can see that this is a new growth, possibly another vine.
Oh my gosh.
Another vine.
Oh wow, I didn't even see that. Look at that.
And these vines are older, and they're under the ground, so you can't see them, but then the growth comes off of it.
Right. The whole family is pitching in to slow the kudzu's progress, but the work isn't easy.
We started in the spring with just cutting the vines off of the trees to at least give the trees a break, cutting the vine off and leaving the dead hanging, and then working on eradicating the living part at the base of the trees. Right now it's 104 every day here in this part of Oklahoma, so it's very difficult to get out and do a whole lot of labor until it gets dark, and then when it's dark you're worried about copperheads and rattlesnakes. So it's really been a slow process now for us to try and remove any of this.
Across the road, their neighbor knows how slow the process is. He's been fighting kudzu for the last 7 years.
I mean, it's really running down this creek bed.
Yeah, it originally started right against this bridge embankment, and when we moved here in 2003, that was just a small patch, and from that point on, it had moved, just followed that creek bottom.
Wow, and that's all since 2003, all the way down.
Yeah, it kind of makes me nervous because, I mean, it just devastates the trees. You can see it grows right up the trees and smothers them, you know, just smothers their canopy, and they can't produce food, and then they die, and you know, it's just destructive to the whole area.
After a lot of research and trial and error, last fall, Paul finally found a herbicide that seems to work, but it has to be sprayed right before the kudzu goes dormant.
Paul, it looks like you've done a little bit of damage to yours on this side of the road.
Yeah, after several tries, I finally made a little bit of progress, but still a lot to do.
Karen, it's obvious they've got a pretty serious problem here.
Absolutely. When Anna contacted me, just under a year ago, she mentioned the fact that she wants this to be their retirement home. So they plan to build a huge home, live here, and you know, kind of end up their life here. And she realized that the challenge associated with controlling this could become an awesome an awesome job if they don't take care of it now.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the plant, and it's a very aggressive plant.
It's a very rapid grow. It's a legume, so it has the kind of the 3 leaflets, if you will. Some people might, if they look at it, think, oh, that looks like poison ivy. It's not, and it's not a relative of poison ivy, actually, a close relative, that is. It's a nitrogen fixer, so it was thought at one point in time that, oh, it can help replenish the soil, and so that's one of the reasons why U.S. Department of Ag promoted it for soil stabilization, for erosion, some forage production for livestock. And then by the 50s, they figured out, oh, this is getting a little out of hand. And they actually started calling it a weed around then. And by 97, they had declared it an official noxious weed.
So this has been here for over 100 years.
Actually, it's been here since 1876.
1876
at the Centennial Expo that was held in Philadelphia. It was introduced from Japan, southeastern Asia. They brought it in for ornamental production, landscaping, realized it might make nice trellises for shade in the south. Obviously it could.
Yeah, right.
And then they decided to start utilizing it for soil stabilization, erosion control, and forage production. But then it grew out of hand, and so I think they recognized it as a problem by the mid-50s.
Yeah. So it's a viney plant, and it grows and shoots. Show us how it grows here. I think we have some right over here we can look at.
Here's a good example of where it has vined up around itself. If it doesn't have any other structure to grow on, such as
it creates its own.
Yeah, exactly. Like over here,
right.
they've taken out this Osage orange tree. They've cut it down, but it was actually using the vines of the native grape. You can see, oh, here we go. If you look at that vine growing up here, and you have some controlled, some dead here. That vine is just using the grape as a trellis to grow up the tree. And what it's doing is it'll actually link the canopies of most of these trees. And that could be very problematic in Oklahoma, because if the vines are, making that network and we have a major ice storm, you can have disastrous consequences from that ice destruction. It can topple those trees. And it could be much more severe if the vine, or less severe if the vine wasn't there.
Right, but even as it's growing on it, it can still, I guess, strangle trees. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the phrase in the South is it's the vine that strangled the South. And so it'll grow up the trees. It'll block all of the leaves from being able to do photosynthesis and acquire their food resources. And then it's been said to girdle trees and then just break the limbs out of the trees because of the weight of that vine.
Wow. So what do you do to push it back, I guess? Is there anything that we can do?
I think in Oklahoma, certainly the people that we're talking with, Anna and Daniel and Paul, they're working hard to get rid of it without a lot of guidance. They're kind of just using what has been done in the southeastern U.S. to try to control it. And really, they have a challenge ahead of them if they have a neighbor that comes in and says, ooh, we kind of like it. Because in Oklahoma, it's actually legal to take it and transplant it and move it elsewhere.
So why would a plant that's been known all over the country to cause these massive problems, why would it be legal in Oklahoma? Why isn't there more fight against it?
That's a tough question that I think many people are struggling with right now with the answer of that. It's known to exist and known to occur from Kansas down to Texas and further east. It's isolated in North Dakota, and I know there's a site in Oregon that has it. So it's not totally over the country, but it is a federally listed noxious weed.
Right.
State businesses, state agencies don't have to abide by necessarily that federal list. They have to abide by their state list. Our state list has 3 species on it, 3 noxious weeds. There are 3 thistles, basically. And no one has considered kudzu to be a problem. There are several agencies that are kind of trying to keep track of it in the state. Oklahoma Department of Ag, Food and Forestry, Oklahoma Department of Wildlife, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. All of those agencies are keeping their own separate list, and there's really no one group that's trying to put it together. That's where the Oklahoma Invasive Plant Council is really trying to maybe link that information together.
Right.
To provide it and promote its listing as a noxious weed in Oklahoma.
And have you been able to find or figure out how many places this is in the state?
Right now, I know of at least 25 known locations. They're GPSed in. We know where they're at. They may be this might look big, but this is really a small area that is controllable. And so if it were up to those 25 areas, if we could control it there, we won't have the devastation that Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi has gone through, because they're spending millions and millions of dollars a year to control it. If we took care of this now and made it illegal to move and transplant it and promote its growth someplace else, we might be able to get a handle on it.
As the state fights to keep kudzu in check, Ann and her family are waging their own war.
This is going to be what I call our lifelong project, which buying a piece of property is a lifelong project. We knew we were going to be picking up sticks and burning piles and doing things for the rest of our lives, but I never thought that I would be focusing on battling a kudzu invasion. Come fall,
Get that kudzu.
we will spray and see if we can't squash ours just a little bit enough to help us get a handle on it. Maybe if we can kill it enough and pull up enough vines and do enough work when it's cool, that we can maybe keep on top of it when it does reemerge in the next spring.
It's not really freeze tolerant, so that's where it may be we may be a little lucky there. But invasive species are known to evolve, adapt to the climate, and so the population could actually shift to individuals that are cold tolerant. And if that's the case, it may be 25 years, but it could be devastating.
Well, it looks like they've got a big job ahead of them.
Absolutely. I'm glad I live in Northwest Oklahoma. It's not there yet.